From the moment I made my first video, which was critiquing the original Silent Hill 2, I knew I was going to make one about the remake, and so until I had played it for myself, I mostly avoided videos about it. That means over the last few months, I've been checking out critiques of the remake, whether they're positive or negative, but
Listening to a video essay was a much more attractive means to the end of pretending that you were into the franchise before it was cool, and so that created a cottage industry. All you had to do was paraphrase somebody else's video about Silent Hill, edit together a supercut of all the cutscenes, and presto, you had a video that would find its audience.
While the vast majority of the critiques of the game that I've come across have been in earnest, apparently there's now a cottage industry of doing the same thing, except negatively whenever it concerns remakes. I came across a video whose script was pretty clearly written by an LLM, which details two games that the narrator has clearly never played, paired with a supercut of cutscene footage and some other people's footage that he tried to pass off as his own, I guess? So it's time to premiere, frankly speaking. Where Frank and Beans are lower effort videos, or they're supposed to be, they aren't always. Frankly speaking are going to be zero effort videos where I read aloud a script or something, maybe I talk off the cuff, very low editing, just to get an idea out. So, the video that I watched is this one. Well, you know what? I don't really like remakes. I didn't really like the Silent Hill 2 remake. I just threw it on. I thought, I'll enjoy this maybe. Very early on in the video, that expectation was a little changed. It becomes extremely clear that this guy has neither played either the original Silent Hill 2 or the remake, meaning that he's written a video about two games that he has never played to cash in, I guess, on the cultural wind that is like this anti-remake culture or something. And of course, when I say he's written a video, I mean that he used an LLM to give him a script. I don't know if this guy's critiques of the Demon Souls and Oblivion remakes follow the same pattern, but it's pretty egregious here. So right off the bat, we're starting with like a bunch of platitudes over one of the original game's cutscenes, and that's par for the course. That's standard for these kinds of video essays. But then, at almost a minute in, the first problem becomes super, super obvious. This cut right here is not gameplay footage. You can see how, jumpy it is. It's from a trailer. Specifically, it's from the much-decried combat trailer, where these QuickTime event prompts were first debuted before they were hidden in every other subsequent trailer because the combat trailer got a lot of backlash. Half a minute later in, we get this, and this is how I knew this guy had not played the original game.
In the original, exploration was quite intuitive, as the camera was somewhat restrictive with its movements.
If you look at it for 3 seconds and you know. This is from the Enhanced Edition. That's not necessarily the problem. It's specifically a camera mod that someone made in 2024. You can find it on GitHub. It's actually a pretty neat looking little project. And at first I was like, wait, what does he do? Is he making some kind of joke about this presentation style, like making the original look like the remake? But no, down in the comments, he has this to say. I mean, come on. No one who has ever played Silent Hill 2 would have looked at this footage and thought it was actual gameplay footage. Especially if, as he says, he recorded his own footage, which was conveniently chewed up by OBS. He would have noticed right away that something was wrong about the perspective, and obviously, especially the obvious free use camera. The camera mod is in no way, shape, or form bundled with Enhanced Edition. You have to go out of your way to get it. There's no possible way to make this mistake unless you know nothing about Silent Hill 2. There's no way that you pair it's so much more restrictive with its movements. As on screen, you're showing a free rotation of the camera that is not possible in the game. Like, what? Let me ask you, what does this sentence even fucking mean?
It was like James was being watched, which ties into the themes of Silent Hill being a demonic simulacrum designed to punish those who feel profound guilt and extract their energy.
Demonic simulacrum? Okay, so some kind of demonic imitation of the town intended to extract their energy? But that's not what's happening in any of the games. At best, you could maybe say that about the first one. Sucking away his daughter's soul, maybe? Not really, no, it doesn't make any sense. Is this maybe from one of the movies? I have no idea where this came from. Another tell is this bit.
James worked a very banal job as a clerk.
Because that's a pretty deep cut. In the game itself, James's occupation, it's never referenced. The remake sort of lampshades it because his desk appears in the labyrinth. As best as I can find, the whole idea of him being a clerk originated with a little add-on that came with a Silent Hill 3 game guide. More relevantly, though, clerk is mentioned on James's Wikipedia article as well as other fandom wiki pages, and that's almost certainly where the LLM scraped it from and spat it out in here. Now here comes something strange indeed.
In sharp contrast to the original's gameplay,
Suddenly the aspect ratio is completely different. This is the correct camera angle for the game, but you'll also notice that the video quality is extremely low. That's because this is old footage, and it looks like it was either taken from a console version of the game or the PCSX2 version of Silent Hill 2, not the extended edition. You know, I can tell from years of experience and also by the pixels. More to the point, though, it means that this guy was stapling together a bunch of other people's footage and then just pretending it was his own. I just had to throw this part in because it's like, there's no way that he read this with a straight face.
soulless, corporate remakes are defended by a group of people whose majority have never played and will never play the original works of art they steal from. They have never played and will never play the original works of art they steal from.
Here, again, he's calling direct attention to these prompts.
Who thought it was a good idea to implement a button mashing mechanic with an obnoxious on-screen prompt to avoid enemy grabs in a remake of Silent Hill 2?
By default, these prompts are not turned on in the game. I double-checked it, because I used their realism setting or whatever when I played. I'm like, oh, maybe on default it's on. But no, it's turned off in the default settings. You have to go in and manually turn it on. Did you actually play it, or did you just watch the one trailer where it was present? Come on. So this thing, though, the symbol, the conspiracy that he's talking about, is that it is supposed to be a symbol for nonces. It's the same thing that a bunch of people say about, Sweet Baby's stupid-looking logo. He doesn't actually believe this, okay? Can I be real with you? Can we all be real? Can we be adults here? He's saying this because the people that he's trying to grift from have this childish predisposition that literally everything in the world that they personally dislike, right down to the tasteless remakes, was created by
a pedophile conspiracy, but beyond that, it's a vampire conspiracy in that they are interdimensionally sucking the essence of our youth.
Right.
And they believe they're possessed by an off-world entity.
They do?
Yeah.
It's almost like a form of, you know that Jim Carrey movie, The Truman Show? It's like a Truman Show. There's like a psychological condition for that where you think you're the star of your own show, and there's this whole this whole coterie of people working to make everything you enjoy worse. Why is the green M&M not sexy anymore? It's because of those goddamn nonsense. Oh, man. This right here.
And the rearrangements seldom feel a bit pointless. After all, the game already had a legendary soundtrack. It feels like they hired him more for his name, which they surely knew would bring an air of legitimacy to the project, than for what he could contribute, without due respects to Mr. Yamaoka.
Yamaoka had previously composed soundtracks with Bloober, and it's almost certainly how Bloober got the go-ahead with this remake. If you don't know that, I guess if your LLM doesn't know that, there you go. But it is weird to have a hate boner for Bloober, and believe me, I have a half-chub of hatred for their writer, and to not know these really basic things. Just a note at this point, it's come up a few times before. Everything that has this Konami logo in the upper right is from promotional material. It's like the trailers. Notably, the combat trailer does not have this watermark, but the other three do. This complaint.
In the remake, the act was moved out of frame as to avoid depicting the simulated abuse. The focus was shifted away from Pyramid Head to James, and now there are 3 different cuts where he looks for a hiding spot in place of the main angle which depicted the monster. The meaning of that scene was diminished, and the change is patronizing to the player. In the next shot, the doll was also moved out of frame.
But the shot after that one, the doll is back in the frame. That's kind of a weird complaint. I mean, yes, it's not in frame for the same amount of time as the original, but it's still very clearly there. I don't entirely get this one. And I want to take a moment to talk about how LLMs work. Now, your pal Frankie here, he works a full-time job and he pays his own bills, and that's reason enough to think that I'm never going to make it on YouTube, bros. But anyways, I work in a field peripherally related to AI, so I'll tell you this. If you don't understand how LLMs function, I highly suggest that you learn. But if you want a working understanding, conceptualize them, think of them like Plinko or Pachinko machines, where everything at the bottom is a conclusion that is training the model, that is feeding the model. And of course, there's infinite billions of things down at the bottom. Each of the pegs on the board is like a logical argument or a line of reasoning. And the way that these models are built is that those outcomes which have the most support and those which seem the most plausible are the ones into which your ball will fall most often. Because the reality is that LLMs are kind of just like really, really complicated prediction models. One of the nuanced tricks of LLMs, though, is that even though there are these holes that you're most likely going to end up in, these most likely, conclusions, what is 2 + 2, every now and then they're designed to basically make the ball make an erratic movement. It takes an unusual or uncommon conclusion from one of those reasoning pegs. And that's basically where hallucination comes from. It means that when an AI hallucinates, it's not just making things up like out of nothing. Chances are it's taken a reasoning explanation or something that is extremely far out there and extremely unlikely. And so they're either using faulty or illogical knowledge to arrive at a conclusion that somebody else made, or they're trying to synthesize a conclusion out of things that they've already seen when there is no conclusion to arrive at. Which is to say that this complaint about the doll being out of frame, it makes sense if you were to complain about the scene where it is obscured compared to the original, but it doesn't make sense here, considering that it's right there. But to the LLM, this argument is just kind of falling in. It's just landed on us. Also, they're usually referred to as mannequins, not dolls, but given that the Wikipedia definition of mannequin calls them dolls, you can kind of see why the LLM used a synonym, because LLMs will randomly use synonyms so as to not appear repetitive in their diction.
Editing Frankie B here again. Let me actually play out the rest of that scene. See if you can spot the other really obvious LLM tells.
In the next shot, the doll is also moved out of frame, and it appears Pyramid Head stops Student's thriller. The reworked choreography is unintentionally goofy and less sinister. Despite Silent Hill 2 being a mature game for adults, the remake treats the player like he's a little kid. The Western censors act like an overbearing mother, who places her hand in front of her teenage son's eyes when a mildly spicy or uncomfortable scene comes up.
Just like synonyms, LLMs overuse similes and metaphors, figurative language in general. And the reason for that is that it allows them to sound authoritative without actually being authoritative. It moves all of the weight onto the audience. Compare these 3 sentences. 9/11 was an inside job. Many people think 9/11 was an inside job. And 9/11 is just like the JFK assassination. The third one sounds really authoritative. It sounds like I'm saying a lot. But what am I actually saying? That's kind of up for you to decide, or maybe if I give any other context. I could just mean that both of these were national tragedies that shaped the course of our foreign policy. And so when you see a lot of comparisons to things that are just said and then they're never expounded upon, that's usually a tell. But I go into more detail about that later. Another tell to me is when this figurative language doesn't really hit the mark, it doesn't really say anything. Teenaged son's eyes. Why would it be teenaged specifically? Like when you're a teenager, you're usually starting to be allowed to watch whatever you want. Younger children, I feel like, would be a much stronger comparison, right? And maybe on its own, you'd just go, it's not the best choice of word, but it still kind of makes sense. I still get the idea. But then you have stuff earlier in the video like this, which just, I don't know what it's trying to say. I have no idea why it's in there.
Pyramid Head, a demonic entity dressed as a butcher, simulates a violent taking of that doll, as if reflecting James's primal lust back at him. And James feared his own shadow. This
complaining about Angela was also the dead giveaway to me that he has not played the remake.
In the remake, Angela's face is uglier and chubbier and masculinized by the bizarrely thick and dense eyebrows and smaller lips. And her skin isn't pale at all. The nuance was lost. Her face looks like that of a regular girl her age.
Because he's complaining about how bloated her face looks here in the original 2021 teaser trailer. This face is not the one that's in the game. And you know what? Like, the new design has some elements of that. You know, it has the bushier eyebrows. It has the different cheekbones. It has the different skeletal structure and hairstyle and forehead size. If you wanted to complain about that, why not complain about that? Why put up a picture of the original 2021 teaser trailer? And I mean, hey, if you wanted to complain about what their original idea for the redesign was, sure. Why don't we also talk about James's original redesign where he looked like a fucking alcoholic?
Oh my God! What's wrong with your face?
Here's another weird line.
He was a bullied, disturbed kid who took revenge on his bully by killing his dog and shooting his leg as he came to beat him up in response. Either that, or he shot both in self-defense.
Both in self-defense. Where the fuck did that come from? My best guess is that the model scraped some guy's weird theory that he posted on Reddit somewhere. Because here's what Eddie says specifically about the dog in both versions.
Yeah, I killed that dog. It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts out. Finally died all curled up in a ball.
Yeah, I ran away after I killed that dog. But you know what? It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts up. Finally died all curled up in a ball.
This one's really weird.
It's a few years since I became ill. I'm so sorry for what I did to you.
So the aspect ratio is 7 different shades of fucked. This scene obviously is not in black and white in the original, and it doesn't have this music. I don't know where he grabbed this from, but like, he did not record this. This is not his footage. This complaint.
The cutscenes, which were so dynamic and fluid before, are now basically strings of face-to-face dialogue shots. No Dutch angles for body shots like the original. Very little camera movements.
No Dutch angles for body shots like the original? Like, this has to be another thing that some fucking moron said on a Reddit post somewhere, and the LLM scraped it up, because I can go back into this exact video and find one. And yeah, there's Dutch angles and generally skewed camera angles throughout the entire game. This is like the perniciousness of these kinds of things. Yes, I broadly agree that in the remake, the camera work is flat, it's more boring, and it's far less inspired than the original. But this critique is not coming from a real place. This is not a real complaint that there's no body shot Dutch angles. What are you fucking talking about? Like, he highlights this part here with Angela, right?
The crooked camera and the twisted movement serves to emphasize dreamlike confusion. In the remake, this aspect of the visual storytelling was lost.
Okay, so what did they do to the cinematography in the remake? Oh, wait a minute. Like, it's much more energetic. And look, I hate what they did with Angela and her cutscenes in the remake. I think that they are gratuitous and exhibitionist and fetishistic. But saying that they don't have a crooked camera angle or twisted movement, that they don't have cinematography, is a weird fucking complaint. This thing right here, this complaint, this is one of the weirdest ones.
The shot of Maria being stabbed was censored for no discernible reason. I guess they felt it was insensitive to show violence against a woman, and senselessly cut it from the sequence.
So she doesn't get killed in the remake. What? Okay, wait, huh? Here's how it actually plays out. Why the fuck would you do this? Well, I've got a running theory, a couple of them here. Let's say that your LLM hallucinates and says that a scene was removed, but then when you're in post, you can clearly see that it is in there. Also, you know...
I guess they felt it was insensitive to show violence against a woman. James screamed like Nicolas Cage.
Comparing this scream to Nicolas Cage? Come on, really? But this is one of those weird LLM-isms. Throughout the video, there's these constant allusions to other famous properties and events which appear specifically at the end of each train of thought, and they're never expounded upon. They always come at the end of the sentence, and nothing is ever done with them. There's offhand mentions of Joel, The Last of Us, John Wick, Ubisoft, and now Nick Cage, but nothing's ever done with these, and no examples are ever shown. And that's just weird, because, like, if I had a perfectly good excuse to include a good Nick Cage scream, well, I'd probably... suss this sentence out. Can you make any sense of it?
Despite this moment being akin to a climactic satanic ritual designed by the demiurgic entity in control of the city to psychologically torture James by killing Maria yet again, in that moment he finally attains gnosis.
A climactic satanic ritual designed by the demiurgic entity in control of the city. And then, after that, in that moment, he finally attains gnosis. Okay. What's the demiurgic entity in control of the city? Gnosis? Gnosis of what? That he killed Mary? Like, the knowledge that he killed Mary? But that happened, like, way earlier with the videotape. You remember that?
He understands that Pyramid Head was born out of his sins and desire for punishment.
Oh, knowledge of the role that Pyramid Head served for him. I see.
And thus, by embracing his Jungian shadow, he sets himself free.
Wait, what? Do you fucking see what I'm saying? You probably couldn't understand what he was saying. By accepting his Jungian shadow, he sets himself free. So are we going to expound now on the psychoanalytical theories of Carl Jung, or are we just going to hope that nobody had the closed captions on and nobody knew what was being fucking said? This was obviously ripped from somebody else's analysis, which was probably posted on Reddit. And it was maybe even this one. Or, apparently, this is something that I wouldn't know, this is from like a Max Dero, I don't know, video. The LLM put it in there and he read it and he's like, I don't fucking know what that means. And here again is this like negative energy thing.
And the Pyramid Heads realized they couldn't extract any more of James's negative energy and proceeded to mechanically end themselves.
What negative energy? Who's sucking the negative energy? This is an AI engaging in some nothing saying, and someone who is not familiar enough with the source material to realize that it's doing that is just like reading it out authoritatively. I can't believe that they did that. I can't believe Silent Hill 2 is about circumcision. Then we end the video with some platitudes about fuck the haters, so on and so forth, yada yada yada. Fiend. That's 40 minutes of an AI-written script, recycled promotional footage, some random people's footage that he tried to pass off as his own, and a bunch of platitudes and jumbled mushmouth commentary that manages to say a whole lot of nothing. But that's tens of thousands of views because Remake bad. They're chorally agreeing with a machine that has scraped the internet in order to preach to the choir. So why did I make this video? There are a ton of good videos out there coming from all sorts of different perspectives, which are very, very harsh rebukes to the remake. There's 3 that I shoved into my video: Boulder Punch, Electric Underground, Under the Mayo. There was one that I watched by Punchy Second, one by Genry Perez, one by Vexy's Fun Zone. There's this Craftian guy who seems to share my angry old man energy that I enjoy. There's the Gaming Brit video where he's talking about remakes more generally, but it is specifically aimed at the Silent Hill 2 remake. Each of these people came at these games with different perspectives. Some liked or disliked different aspects of the remake, and getting to see those differences in perspective and take is what makes critique worthwhile and enjoyable. But an enormously important part of dissident critique, of going against the norm, is authenticity. Authenticity is the currency by which you get people to unwind from the consumer culture hive mind. It's how you can get them to stop and smell the flowers, consider other approaches to life, and appreciate art for what it is. When somebody adopts a countervailing position in a disingenuous way, it splashes out onto every single person who is there and earnest. It's like a fucking acid. This is the kind of video that people will point to as an excuse to say, well, anyone who dislikes Silent Hill 2's remake is just a stupid grifter. Because I'd say that making a 40-minute video about 2 games that you have never touched in your life fits the fucking bill of grifter.
I'll be darned to it. What the heck is going on around here? I know you love. Whoa. I don't understand. Yeah. That's all right. Yeah. Little girl, get her hold out. Pachinko.